make my life easier.
What you can do to make your life easier. Is that what you said?
Yes, using this technology.
Okay. I'm going to assume that implies that your life is not just incredibly easy. Is there anything in your real estate business that if it were easier would allow you to sell more houses?
Well, I think it's advertising, it's marketing, it's writing those descriptions. God, we all hate that, right?
Okay, perfect.
But
We can.
the marketing piece, I still struggle with that because it's just not me.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Amber, how about you? What would be most valuable for you in the next 55 minutes?
Okay, so mine would definitely be kind of along the same. I just whatever can make life a little bit easier. I think any kind of help with follow-up, being just on it with that.
Okay.
With some automation is so important these days because if you're not doing it, other people are.
That's really good, Amber. That too.
Yeah, and people
Add that to my list.
We are so like we want satisfied like right at the moment. If we send out a message, we want it answered. So I'm just anxious to hear what the opportunity might be.
Perfect. Okay. So something that would improve your follow-up so that you could actually spend time doing things that you enjoy.
Yeah, the follow-up takes a long time.
Okay, perfect. How about you, Ivana?
I would say a lot of what the ladies just spoke of, but more on just really lead generation and actively doing all of the research, or I mean, the scripting and the questions for what we would need to ask potential buyers, potential sellers. You know, they come to our websites, they check us out, and then they, go away, like being able to capture them, similar to what they were saying, in that moment to see how serious of a lead they are.
Okay. So something that would increase lead capture and conversion as well, whether that's through follow-up or if you could even get them lower in the funnel, that would be even better. Is that right? Cool.
Correct.
Okay, so what I hear is that y'all would like to save more money and make life easier. Good news, we can do those things. Anything that we didn't cover, anybody else got anything they want to get out of AI conversation? Yeah, go for it, Jan. Oops, sorry, you're on mute. You're fine. I hope it fixes Zoom. I don't want AI to fix the fact that we're always on mute. Sorry, you're still on mute, Jan.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Thanks. Yeah. Maybe I'm being a doomsdayer, but I'd like to know if there's any pitfalls or things we need to be aware of, because this is all new to me for sure. And just to be sure we're getting what we think we're getting. I understand there is a negative side to it that people can misuse it. And I guess I just want to be aware of it. I see the good too, but I'm a little concerned about being conned and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's a good conversation to have. Okay, so here's kind of the thing. I end up doing trainings, I don't know, 3-4 days a week, every week. And I'm kind of known for the fact that they never really actually end on time. So I'll stay as long as you have questions and as long as it's valuable to you. And if it's not valuable, then we'll wrap up, right? But here's the thing with AI is understand this is a massive topic that I have hundreds or thousands of hours into. And I'm going to try to condense it down into the easiest actionable items that you can take away from the conversation and try to make it as simple as possible. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of things that from a possibility framework about things you could do in the future once you get a little bit more next level or once you think about possibility-based thinking or some creativity behind it. So let's go ahead and get started then. So I'm going to share my screen here with you. And there we go. So here's the interesting thing, I think, is all of the images today were generated with AI. So that's an interesting caveat. So this house is not a photograph. It's actually an AI generated image. And so everything that's in here today is AI generated. And so in order to kick things off, I want to just show you a little bit of the what I think is kind of an entertaining and engaging way to be thinking about utilizing artificial intelligence. And I haven't been fired for it yet, but there's still timing on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Keller, or am I? You see, today, I stand before you as both Gary Keller and a remarkable manifestation of Gary Keller's singularity. I bet you're wondering if I'm the real Gary Keller or an advanced artificial version of him created to share my wisdom and knowledge with the world. Well, that's a question I'll leave for you to ponder. What I can tell you is that whether I am the man himself or a digital embodiment of his leadership philosophy, my purpose remains the same. To tell you about how excited I am for today to witness Eric Forney's Market Monday webinar powered by artificial intelligence. Let me tell you, this event marks the official start of the fourth industrial revolution, and I can't think of any better way to celebrate the event than by attending Market Monday with Eric Forney. As a leader in the real estate industry, I've always believed in the power of focusing on what matters most. And as I've said to you before, extraordinary results are directly determined by how narrow you can make your focus. When you spread yourself out, you end up spread thin. This Market Monday event is an example of how Eric is narrowing his focus and leveraging AI technology to deliver extraordinary results just for you. Now, let's dive into the world of real estate leadership and the fourth industrial revolution together as one.
Okay, Beth, you've heard Gary once or twice in life. Is that Gary or not Gary?
Well, just knowing you, I'm going to say it's not Gary, but holy cow, it sounds like Gary, but I'm guessing it's not.
Yeah, it is not. It is not Gary the human.
That was amazing though.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, this is Stephanie. That was unbelievable. I know it's not him, but I mean, it's just ever so slightly. That's like crazy.
Yeah.
For real. Crazy.
So I played it for him a couple weeks ago, and it was really funny because he's like, that's kind of concerning. And
Yeah.
That's not me. I would never say that. I would never say manifestation. And I was like, oh, okay, Gary, I'm really sorry. I didn't get the exact script written for you. I'll go back and rewrite it. But I thought it was an interesting a way to realize that like that technology exists today. And so when you realize that what you can do, both Jan, to kind of your question is you could use it both for positive and for negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. I mean, when I heard it, and it's like, when you think about the amount of scammers that are already in the real estate market, this just opens it up. And, how will we or the consumer be protected in this?
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. The only pushback that I like to give to this is the idea that if you think about it, we've had impersonators for a really long time. Now, you couldn't impersonate anyone and everyone easily, but you could certainly always impersonate celebrities. Now, one of the challenges is you can create a voice for anyone for the most part with just a small amount of audio. And so I like internally within the company for fun, because trainings get boring on Zoom, I'll do random teachings from random people inside of Livian and use them to teach various lessons as a way to just kind of mix up the content and mix up the pace. So like the Adam Hergenrother version I have is as good as Gary or better. It takes pauses and breaths and says ridiculous words that Adam would incorporate, spells things or mispronounces them. So it's a super easy thing to do, $10 a month. I don't expect you to go out and do it, or that it makes a lot of sense other than at least just to make you aware of it. So understand that the way I think about AI is kind of thinking through this lens of possibilities and then understanding where we are in the process. And so when we've heard about AI for so long, and the reality is that it really didn't come into any real usable basis for real estate agents until probably the last 90 days, or at least the beginning of 23. And when you think about the way that the industry has evolved and where the industry is going, I want you just to realize that in 1970 or in the 70s that buyer agents became a thing and innovated the way real estate was done, right? It was just a listing agent representing a seller, and buyers came through via the listing. Then you had fax machines that have now been replaced by digital signatures. And Jan, I know that you could attest that. I have to imagine that saved hours and hours amounts of time each week or each transaction, which means you can help more people.
Yes.
Right? And so those that adopted digital signatures gained time. Those that still fax and handwrite have found themselves falling behind the industry innovation. Same thing with computers versus smartphones, right? Is you can do almost everything you need business-wise on your smartphone. When you think about the fact that at one point MLS books were online, or sorry, were actual books, then you had online democratization of knowledge, which meant the consumer most of the time knows more about real estate than you do. Most of the time, the consumer knows more about their neighborhood and real estate than you do. And you went to digital marketing, pay-per-click, Zillow, everyone else that's come along and tried to innovate your business. And now we're at this phase of artificial intelligence. The good news is that you're at the early stage of adoption. 86% of people in America have still not used a single AI-related tool. 86% of people in America have still not used any artificial intelligence related technology. So the good news is you're ahead of the curve, right? Just familiarizing yourself with ways that you can utilize AI in your business is far advanced everyone else is doing right now. Okay. And so I think about AI in kind of a few different contexts. I like to think about AI as is if you take the lens of thinking through the idea of having an expert in your pocket on demand for any question or idea that you might want to ask or think about or have curiosity for, apply some creativity to. If you could have an attorney, a doctor, a nurse, a legal consultant, a copywriter, a marketer, a business coach, a life coach, a best friend, a real estate expert, Gary Keller, if you could have them on demand anytime you wanted in your pocket, that's what you should think about AI acting like. Okay, so when you realize that what you've been doing, what do you do now when you want to know the answer to something? Assuming you're not using AI, what do you do when you want to know the answer to something?
We ask Siri.
Ask Siri.
Google it.
Google it. Call Beth Guthrie, right? Like there's you ask Siri, ask Beth, or ask Google, right? And so everyone, if you run a team like Stephanie or Ivana or something, everyone calls you for answers. And what I would encourage you to do is to try to work on having them retrain to call some AI tool instead, to get the answers first. In fact, my wife said to me, I don't want to ask ChatGPT. I want to ask Eric GPT. Like, I don't want whatever AI told me the answer is. I want your answer, Eric. But the reality is, like, I try to get everyone in the habit of going to the technology to get the best answers and then go to verify it with someone human if you need to. But just understand that if you could have an expert on demand, that's how I try to think about AI. And I say that because when we look at the test results and we look at what AI is capable of today, you can see that AI actually is going to perform better at almost everything that you do and everyone that you know. There are a few areas in which you would be able to outperform AI, but I promise you it knows how many square feet are in an acre better than you do. And so you would go to utilize technology in order to get answers that you need or to get more time back. So AI got nearly a perfect score on the GRE, so on graduate level scores. It scores in the top 90th percentile for the bar. So from when you think about what you consult with an attorney about and how much you pay an attorney to do so, you could use for free the phone in your pocket to get as good or better answers or contracts written from AI than what you could pay someone to do today. In fact, one I've got a legal matter going on, and we took all of the discovery and all of the court transcript and bank records and fed it into one AI tool, and it found both instances of perjury and made legal arguments for why the counterparty was not remotely in alignment with case law.
Move the car out.
Did that while on the phone with our attorney. I think that took maybe 5 to 10 minutes to do. And the attorneys, there was no way that they were going to find like the instances of perjury that didn't line up with the bank records. Okay, bank records that didn't match with testimony. And so understand that you have the ability to basically, AI is looking for patterns. It's going to analyze a bunch of data. It's going to look for patterns of information and calculate probability of something to be accurate or not. And so one of the first and easy tools that you can use as a real estate agent, this is a real estate agent's dream come true. Is there anything more realtor than a headshot making widget? Using AI, you can have 100 headshots made in 24 hours for $17. $17, go to try it on AI, load 10 photos of yourself. You can take 10 selfies, Rhonda, or just load the last 10 selfies you've taken, and it will compile those 10 selfies into 100 different headshots for you. And so these are 2 of the headshots that came back for me. Listen, you're going to end up with like 70 that are total dog crap, and then you're going to get like 30 that are okay. And of those, you're going to like maybe like, I don't know, 5 to 10 of them. Lauren, some of them I had earrings and random other like facial features that shouldn't be exactly where they are. But tryitonai.com allows real estate agents to just get more photos of themselves than ever before. It is the most realtor thing on the planet. And then this image on the right is what I assume that my wife thinks I look like. I just ask AI to make an image of me, and I just assume that's what Lauren sees every day, is this ugly looking right-hand side here. So Try It On AI is one easy way you could update your headshot without actually having to hire a photographer. How much does that save you and how much time? Way more than what it will take you to load 10 selfies. One of my good friends and awesome people, Travis Cox, some of you know him, KW agent in Louisville, Kentucky. He has a company called Description Wizard. So a couple of you said you hate writing listing descriptions. Well, good news. Travis's company allows you to write listing descriptions for, I believe it's $9 a month. Descriptionwizard.com, $9 a month, because writing about cozy fixer-uppers with good bones is just exhausting. You actually were meant to do something better than write about your listings. And there's a format that you can utilize to actually have more effective listing descriptions. And the good news is you don't have to go learn it. Travis has already built that for you. It's getting ready to do, if you hurry up and go, not trying to pitch the product, but if you hurry up and sign up, the price is going up, I think, to $15, because it's actually it will actually scrapes realtor.com for all of your listing data. And it will pull the listing information in order to help write the description. So if the house has ever been listed in the past or has tax records, it'll aggregate that information to help create listing descriptions. There's also I believe there's a market report video script. So if you wanted to send out a video to your database about the state of the market this week, and you didn't want to go do all of the research, inside a Description Wizard, there is a market update video script generator that you could use in order to put out video to your database on as many days of the week as your heart desires. Okay. I don't get anything exciting for it other than you don't have to write listing descriptions, and Travis is a good dude. So check that out. Then I think the next thing, when you think about trying to save time, Alexander Graham Bell would just roll over in his grave if he realized what's happened and been bastardized to communication with email. Is there anything worse for real estate agents in society than email? Probably not. And so in order to help you take back your life from email, one of the very first things I would do right after this call is I would download a integration to let AI work your email. You have basically 3 different temperatures or 3 different speeds that you can utilize for AI to manage and monitor your email. And those are, you can essentially have it summarize an email that's written. If you know anyone or work with anyone who writes you really long emails, and you're like most real estate agents I know, you won't read it, me neither. If it's longer than like 200 characters, probably won't read it. And so you can have your email summarized. The next thing you could do is you could have your email summarized, and you could have a response generated on your behalf and then saved as a draft so that it's not sent. Or you could have your emails read and responded to on your behalf, fully automated. Kind of a few different speeds with that. Okay. Here are 4 different easy to use integrations that you could go download from like the Google Play Store today, assuming you're using Google Chrome. And if you're not, I'm sorry. But these integrate with Google Chrome, so you can utilize them on your desktop right away. It's a product called Superflow, Compose AI, Chat GPT Writer, and Spark are easy ways that you can manage your email. Spark has a iPhone app as well. I don't have an iPhone, so I can't tell you whether it works or not. Other than I know we did this presentation last week, and Travis loved it. So Spark is an option if you want to use AI generated emails on your phone. Right now, I think the easiest one to use is Superflow, though, personally. Elise, Kristen, disagree? Like anything better? Am I wrong?
Well, you would say that anything helps my email, so they're all great.
Why would I say that?
Oh, because you say my emails are always too long, so they help to summarize.
Yeah, they are a little linked. They're thorough, you like to be thorough. And so, so the one reason that I like Superflow, and by the way, I'll if you want to go have me dig into any of these as we get to the end, I'll demonstrate any of them and show you actually what they look like or how to use them. But one of the things I like is you can hover over an email in your inbox and get the summary without opening the email. That way you can actually like read the email without having to read the email and do anything with it. So you can send it back to yourself at a later time and date. A lot of different ways you can manage your email. The other day, I had my inbox down to 4. I think that's probably the lowest I can think of in record to have in my inbox. So huge benefit when you think about doing something that will save you. On average, I know that I've run analytics on my email 38 hours every 2 weeks. Is how much time email takes me. 38 hours every 2 weeks. What a great business investment, right? Like if you're a business owner and you found out that someone on your sales team was spending 40 hours every other week on email, you would lose your mind. And so when you think about what a giant waste of revenue and your time it is to manage your email and your inbox, you can't avoid solving that problem, in my opinion. You have to go fix that one. The next thing is if you're on Zooms all the time, what I would tell you is that you no longer have to be a dinosaur and go to every meeting you get invited to. In fact, you can send your AI assistant on your behalf to attend meetings. In fact, you can see if you look at the attendee screen that Read AI, the meeting assistant, is currently tracking how much time has elapsed, who has talked and in what increments. And it will give basically a score at the end of the meeting for engagement, whether I've been inclusive enough. I fail that one terribly most days. Whether I've used words that are politically correct or not, I fail that one most days. Whether it will give me a rating and review on whether the meeting was valuable based on how much you pay attention to the screen. So the more you could look at me, that would be fantastic, just so I can get a really high rating and improve the report that we get. So it will also tell you how much money every meeting costs you to attend based on the number of people that attend and what their potential hourly rate is. So what we've done as an organization is we've canceled a lot of meetings or a lot of training events that we were doing on a regular basis. Once we got reviews and reports and insights into the performance, we were able to find out that what we were doing wasn't necessarily helping people move forward the way that we intended it to. And the only way to do that is to get additional insights and analytics on attending meetings on your behalf. I saw this morning that Zoom did come out with what's called Zoom IQ. I have not used it because I literally got that note this morning. And so I would imagine that if you go into the Zoom app store, that there is also a meeting assistant available for free. I think, what do we pay? $24 a month, $19 a month, something in that range, maybe, for Read AI, I think. Yeah.
So Eric, with these softwares,
Mhm.
you know, my understanding of AI is that, you know, you talk to it, it starts to learn your dialect and the way you use words grammatically. And so when you implement something like this for your email, one, how do you ensure from a real estate, you know, things are being answered correctly? I mean, I know they have access to the information, but how do they, you know, how do you know it's right? And then how do you begin to trust that it's answering the emails in the way in which you would answer it? Like, how did you go through that process?
Yeah, so that's a great question, by the way. I think about it this way is if you would hire an assistant or a VA or someone to do a job or a task for you, you could hire something in your pocket. You could hire technology in your pocket that's smarter than you and your VA to do the job. Okay, when you understand that, remember that it has the ability to outsmart you and use contextual nuance, then you realize that what you've done by hiring anyone and everyone is you've outsourced knowledge and intelligence to other people in the organization, trusting that they're going to do a better job than what you would do, or at least a good enough job to replace yourself so that you don't have to do that job anymore, right? When you think about like what Gary has said, right, is that when we move through E to P, it's about shedding incrementally the lowest dollar producing tasks. And so then you start by shedding the lowest dollar producing tasks, which are email, communication, attending meetings, anything that you could send another really intelligent person on your behalf to do. Try doing that with AI 1 or 2 times. See what your perspective is at that point. But then one of the benefits of kind of the 3 speeds that I mentioned. Let me pull up my inbox. I have no clue what's in it. So if there's something I shouldn't share, then we're going to pretend that that I didn't share it. Let's see here. Let me just pull up my email inbox real fast, just to give you a demonstration. It might be my pink slip after playing Gary AI to start the call. Let's see. So I'm going to go in and let's say that I want to pull Elise's email. Let's say I want a summary of this email that Elise sent at some point in time. I'm going to click this, get an S to summarize. I'm assuming you can see my screen okay. Cool. So in theory, it'll summarize my email. I might have to log back in. It's one of the downsides to technology, right? Yeah, I need to log in. So what it's going to do is it basically goes through and it reads my email, and then it knows how I respond to email based on the style that I communicate in. If you were going to guess the style that I communicate in, I would be entertained by that, by the way. But what
Intense.
intense. So it says at the bottom, let's see, informal, friendly, conversational, short sentences and fragments to convey a sense of urgency or excitement. No fluff, communicates clearly. Overall, informal yet engaging, common expression, simple language, approachable yet direct. Okay, so it should then go in and it should generate a response to an email. Here, I'll pick this one. So it should generate a response based on the way that it interprets how I read and write email. Okay, so now it's summarized my email. Eric may speak at this event, blah, blah, blah. Let's say I want to generate it. I can ask what I want it to generate. I could basically prompt it to generate some type of response, or I can just go with, let's see, say thanks and take action. I don't know, just making this up. So it'll now draft a reply to Veronica, and then I can choose what I do with that. Thanks for letting me know. Please go ahead and book the event with LF. That's the missus. I appreciate your help with this. Looking forward to hearing back from you regarding the dates and the times. Cool. Are we good with that? I could send it, right? Probably good enough. I didn't read it, but based on the summary, let's assume that that's a sufficient enough email. Okay. You might not want to do that with something that regards like your, the safety of your children and legal, but for most communication that takes place during the day, that's probably more than sufficient. And what you're really doing is you're taking back bandwidth for the amount of time and mental energy that you have to expend in order to think about what you want to reply, when in fact you can just hire out AI to do that on your behalf. Okay, so you're gaining cognitive load back. Yeah, go for it, Steph.
Eric, sorry, I realized I kept trying to ask a question and was on mute. Hey, so I'm curious of all the, because email, yes, is the greatest nemesis. So why this? I know you said this was the one that you felt like you liked the most. What was some of the other deciding factors on this one? I'm just curious because I don't know anything about any of them, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I have 12 of them. Let's.
Well, email assistants, that sounds about right?
Right.
It's about how many all the email we get.
Right. I've used different ones over time. The one thing that I like about this as a option compared to others, let me see if this will follow my screen here. Okay, cool. The one thing I like about it is I don't have to open it and read it. So I can read whatever this email is without actually going into it and reading it. I like the time saving component of it. I like to also, I basically manage my inbox for like, most people would tell me that the way I manage my inbox is not the most efficient way to manage my inbox. In theory, you should probably like label everything, folder it out, but I don't. And so it seemed to work for me, probably the same way, Steph.
Amen. Right.
Yeah.
I don't have time to label.
Right. It's a
Right.
task. It's a task drawer for me. And so, because of that, I like the fact that I can gain the task aspect of it without having to open it, so that I can leave it unread to do later. It also will give me, like, we'll just use this Veronica's email again. I can utilize it a few different ways. You'll see I have another one built in. This one's Compose AI. So it's going to auto prompt something to say based on what it read from her. And then it's going to give me choices. Say yes, say no, say thanks. Let's say I'm going to say yes to Veronica. It's going to draft that on my behalf. Awesome. Looking forward to getting the booking done, confirming dates. Thanks for the update. Okay, so it drafted that actually in the body of the email itself. You might decide that's the faster route or suits your goals better. There's one built in. I've got, like I said, there's a ton of them. Just pick one and try to get used to it. But that's the one I like for now. The only thing I don't like about it is that it resets a lot. I have to sign out of it pretty regularly, like almost every day, and re-sign back in.
Okay.
Kristen, Elise, do you like anything better?
No, I've just started using Superflows and have been finding benefits in that one.
Cool. And like I said, Travis Cox swears by Spark. I'm cheap. It's $60 a year. Superflow is free. So
Okay.
I like free if it's good enough. So But Travis claims the one thing that Spark does is you can like read and reply like 10 emails at a time. So you can mass communicate if you get tons of emails that you actually need to engage with at any given time. So you might check it out, but like I said, $60. Meeting assistant wise, like I said, there's a ton of them. We use Read AI and a company called Fireflies. Fireflies and Read AI are the two that we use consistently. The downside to them is your meetings are recorded in case that matters, or in case there's something that you don't want to be recorded or you don't want to be shared. So the one benefit is I know that automatically my AI bots will get kicked out of meetings with Gary. And so I have them pre-programmed to be exempted from being invited to any meeting that involves Gary. And so you can set up rules as well. If you said, hey, don't join these meetings if this person is included, don't join these meetings at this day and this time, don't join this meeting in this series, whatever it is. And you can create a bunch of rules. So we use them every morning, and it sends out a summary. Elise and Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong. It sends a summary of the meeting notes and any action items. And then it would catalog it as well in case you wanted to search for keywords. So think about it like building a training library or building a library of like all of your business and processes. If you wanted to document them later, or if you wanted to parse out an entire month's worth of content that you covered, you could do so just by having 100% of your meetings have notes taken every single time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Eric,
also has, I was just gonna say, it also has a full recording and an option for like a trailer for
Yeah.
that meeting. So if you just want to see the highlights, you can watch those.
Yeah. Go for it,
yeah,
Steph.
Eric, download that Read AI for probably maybe the last week or two. But yes, I didn't even know, it sent me an email and I was shocked at the basically like little summary that it gave me of the meeting that had just happened like the day before or whatever. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Right.
Yeah.
It just like broke it down into like the little bitty bullet points. And then it even talked about how it was closed and that we wished one of our team members well. And you know what I mean? Like I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
It was literally as if a human totally analyzed all of it and put this summary together and said, here, if you missed the meeting, here's what it was about. It was crazy.
Except that it was better than any human you probably have in doing that. I know it's better than, for sure.
100%.
So
Yes.
here's a quick synopsis of it. Again, I have no idea what I'm sharing, so we'll just find out. We'll just YOLO. So these are meetings. I've either attended them or not. And this, you see, gives me a score. Here's a set, like this meeting this morning had a 71. So I'm borderline. I need to improve my morning meeting, it says. The engagement was a 70. The sentiment was a 73. Here's some of the keywords that were used. I could drill down into that and see, oh, it tells me I'm 1 minute and 16 seconds late to the meeting. And then I could get a summary, I could get action items. I could take the action items and put them into a workflow. I could do anything in the world that I want to do with any of those and have it automated without being involved if I want to. So there are a ton of negative use cases for AI that we don't have to like, that we can talk about. But but I think instead, when you understand that this allows you to do more of the things that you actually want to do, and as a business owner, what you gain is quality control. You no longer have to be held hostage by whether someone is sick, whether they've decided to take a sabbatical, whether they're not interested in being a part of what you're interested in, whether they've chosen to not show up for work today and no call and no show. You're taking back some of the quality control and predictability, because let's face it, what we do as real estate agents, it's hard to replicate. And it's hard to implement streamlined systems and processes for quality control, and your customers deserve a better experience. You can actually improve the consumer experience by utilizing predictable tools that are an improvement from what you could go hire if you went out and hired it independently. undeniably, all of the tools that I use are better than me. In fact, I could generate this presentation in about 5 minutes. No, that's not true. In about 30 seconds, you're going to probably want to edit it because I edit everything and then over edit it to death. But you can create a PowerPoint in about 30 seconds just by typing in what you want the PowerPoint to be about. Okay, so if you think about, if you do a lot of speaking, a lot of presenting, if you want to edit your listing presentation, awesome, go knock yourself out. You can go create 30 new listing presentations if you want. I can show you how to do it. One of the things I think that you could look at doing is bulk content creation. It may not be for everyone, the individual agent, or if you're not interested necessarily in trying to think or put a lot of time into content creation, or you don't need to do a lot of bulk content creation, then maybe this isn't the best application for you. But if I'm Beth, or if I'm a team leader or an OP or something, and I need to potentially create content in mass quantity, or if I want to start the beginning of the year in January and I want to create all my content and do it in bulk and be done, then you could do that as well. I can show you a little bit of how some ideas and ways that you could do that. You can do the majority of that through Canva. Canva actually has a few different AI tools that are really easy to use and will likely cover 80–90% of the things that you're going to want to do without wasting hundreds of hours going down the rabbit hole of AI image creation and getting really too creative with it. And so we can show you how to do bulk content creation. I just want to be mindful time-wise. Like I said, I'll spend as much time or as little time unpacking things with you as you want. But I just want to make sure we get as much in an hour as we can. Okay, so one of the most common ways, and part of why AI has gotten so popular and become kind of this lexicon of current events, is because of ChatGPT. And what I will say about ChatGPT is it certainly has benefits and use cases. I would argue that you could probably replace most of the time you were previously spending on Google and use ChatGPT instead. Where you can start to really get benefits from utilizing ChatGPT is by understanding how to communicate effectively with it. And then by playing around with all the different potential use cases that you may want to use it for. So here's an example. Let's say that Rhonda wants to go create a new viral TikTok dance craze, which I know she does, and she doesn't want to
Totally
think
her.
it absolutely is her. And so because of that, she says, I don't want to come up with any creative content around it. What I want to do though is I want to appeal to first-time buyers. I want to build authority and credibility with my target audience, because my target audience is first-time buyers. And I want to create a story that speaks specifically to their pains, their problems, and how Rhonda is the authority figure to help them and how she has a solution to their problem. I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to type in something kind of the effect of act as a social media copywriter. So I'm going to start, the framework is I'm going to start by telling it what job I want it to do. You might want to write that one down. I'm going to start by telling it what job I want it to do. Because here's the thing about communication, and the thing that I find really fascinating about AI especially is that most of us are really poor at communicating, myself included. You realize that you're really poor at communicating when you start communicating with a logical computer. And when it gives you is poor responses to poor communication. The more specific and intentional you are with your communication, the more specific and intentional your response. And so I'm going to start by asking it telling it what job I want it to do. And then if I'm going to create, in this instance, I want an Instagram story idea. I want it to build credibility and authority for my real estate business. My target audience is, first-time home buyers. Give me 10 various story ideas, including the script and the image or video that I should include. And I want 10 responses, 10 ideas, right? So this is an example of potentially 5 different ways that you could have spoken to first-time home buyers and what images and message you could pair in order to do that. So Rhonda can now take a screenshot and she can go start her viral dance craze for first-time home buyers. Good news, Rhonda. I can't wait. One of the other easy things that you can do that you could replace what would have been unskilled labor or unpredictable labor. If you're like me, you don't do it at all. And so you could just start doing it. And you could go on and you could respond to your online reviews by either automating it or at least minimizing the time that it would take for you to thoughtfully respond by prompting ChatGPT to create responses on your behalf that are intentional. Now, I'll save the next level nerdery for you. You can actually automate this to happen every single time that someone leaves you a review, but that we'll worry about later. And so in the short term, here's the prompt that I would use, or that we do use, which is write an empathetic and grateful reply. Use fewer than 200 characters to the online review from a past customer. The tone and voice should be customer centric. Use the customer's words. I'm going to copy and paste that customer specific review. And then I ideally want to get a 200 character response back that is both empathetic, grateful, and customer centric. I want them to use the specific words that the consumer used. Now, here's the reason why. Any thoughts on why I said empathetic and grateful? I think you have this is where the intention of prompting comes in, or intentionality. Any thoughts or ideas why?
Since it sets the tone.
It sets the
of
tone.
the
for your
email.
response. Yeah. And I know that your mother would never say this about you, but not everyone thinks you're 5 stars. And so it would make sense that you would try to make your response as neutral and effective as possible for all types of reviews that you might encounter, especially if you think about automating them in the future. In which case, if someone leaves you a 1-star review, should you be empathetic and grateful? Yes. If someone left you a 5-star review, should you be empathetic and grateful? Yes. Should you use the words that they told you? Yes. That's the beauty of communication, is when you think about sales, which is in theory what we do. What we want to do is follow a framework that gives us the best likelihood of generating a desired outcome. Okay, and so I'm gonna follow that framework in order to respond appropriately. And I think there's an example, obviously, of like what that response was. Thanks so much for your kind words, positive experience. Thrilled to hear that Larissa was able to help you. It knows Larissa was the agent because Larissa was mentioned in the review. Okay. We have like 380 of these. There's no chance I'm going to go on and do them. And no one has been doing it. So now we can automate them and speed up the response to that. But like, I have to imagine, Ivana, like in property management, you have to get the most diverse amount of reviews because you get them from tenants, people who apply that get denied, people who are customers, not customers. I have to imagine that your reviews are just like all over the map. Maybe not, but I would think that that's the most difficult to navigate.
They are, and the people who are upset are the ones that are more likely to leave a review versus, just the awesome ones.
Yeah. And so coming up with a system for how you can have your lowest knowledge worker do that, it would be respond to them would be something that I would implore if I'm you or if I'm everyone else. Now, if I'm Carla Higgins, or if I'm an agent who wants to be better with my skills at selling real estate and communicating with humans, what I would do is I would go into ChatGPT and I would ask it to act as a talent coach, or to ask as a real estate coach, or to act as a sales coach. And I would ask it to provide me with a series of questions that it might pose to a candidate who I'm interviewing to hire for the job of selling my house. What I might do is I might act as a sales coach, business coach, talent coach, HR coach, and I would ask ChatGPT to provide me with a list of questions that it would ask a candidate if I was thinking about hiring them for the job of listing my house for sale. And so I did that for you. And some of the responses I thought were pretty good, which were walk me through how to determine the best list price and include what factors you'd consider when comparing properties. What are the specific techniques that you use to effectively negotiate on behalf of your clients? Tell me how you stay informed of the market and how you adapt your strategies, or describe your approach to creating a marketing plan for residential property. As you noticed, what type of questions are these?
Open-ended.
Open-ended for sure. Anything else? They are definitely open-ended questions for sure. Anything else that you can think of? No. Are they questions that you have to think about? Or are they questions a brand new agent could answer real easily, no problem, and just BS through? I'm going to guess there are questions that you might have to think about whether you know the answers to, and whether you actually have thought through and been clear with yourself and your listing presentation to know if you could describe how you create a marketing plan for a residential property. Or could you describe the factors that you consider when comparing properties and their price? Are you confident that everyone in the organization could do that at a level 10 as well, or better? Probably not, which means if I wanted to start my script practice, what I could do is I could just reel play through a series of questions on a regular basis like this. But it starts by prompting it strategically with acting as a talent coach, as a sales coach, as an HR coach, depending on what you're looking for. But what you want to do is make sure you end up with open-ended questions that require, sometimes what I'll do is ask for open-ended Socratic questions, because I like Socratic questions that don't have answers, or that don't have clear right answers, because that also requires the person that you're real playing with to be more intentional with how they approach the sales framework. Okay. Now, Stephanie, I know that you're the queen of operations and all things administrative as a high DC like you are. And so this is going to get you really excited, which is that you could go back and you could take all of your processes that exist inside of the business, and you could either rebuild them, consult with them, or solve any potential problems that exist with them. For instance, one of the things that we did was, this is an example of it, which was your home's now listed on the market. Here's the intro email that we would send out to a seller that says your house is for sale. Here are the things that are going to happen next. And convert that into a template. Now, listen, we already had a template for the email that went out on behalf of the team once we listed a house for sale. However, when I love you, and when I opened it and read it, what I didn't do was read it, because it was too long for me to read. And so when you think about improving or iterating on the current processes and content that you communicate with, think through the lens, the fact that you have to communicate with all personality profiles, both C's and D's and I's and S's, and you need to be as generally effective as possible with how you communicate with all personality profiles and still be as compliant as possible. Well, I have two amazing, awesome people on this call who are really good at processes and operations, who wrote the previous email. They're awesome. Anyone who knows that. And it was lengthier than what I would have wanted to read or would have read. And so changing the format of it so that it optimizes its effectiveness is the sole reason to communicate. So you can do that a few different ways. I gave 3 different prompts for what you could do. which is you could go in and say, act as a customer service consultant, convert this simple and easy to use template, or convert this into a simple and easy to use template that instills confidence in the customer. You can copy and paste what your current template is, ask it to be rewritten. You could ask it to be written into an outline. You could ask it to be written into a summary. You could ask it to be created into a table for Microsoft Excel. Whatever you want the format to be, you can do that, okay? And so thinking through the existing processes that you have, if you have no processes, good news. Today's a great day for you because you could build all of your processes in about an hour. You could start by saying act as a business consultant. Write an introductory email for a first-time home buyer who just entered into escrow, who now needs to send their contract to Lon and Neil and needs to apply for a mortgage, and outline the next 5 steps and what I'm going to do next. Use 300 words or fewer. Make it as skimmable as possible. Okay, the more information you give, the better, but be super clear and succinct about what exactly you want it to generate. You could build processes that you don't have currently. Like I said, you could start by building at least one of them today. Okay. I included the picture. I've included 2 photos, by the way, which one was that really hideous looking guy at the beginning that my wife thinks I look like. And then the other was this very unattractive lady here as well. And I did that because they're both AI generated images, and 2, there was a recent study that came out that said that men and women overwhelmingly stop and look at certain profiles of men and women on social media. It just so happens that like 6 out of 10 women stop and look at almost like the exact same guy, overwhelmingly more than any other. They would stop scrolling to look at really obnoxiously attractive men on social media. And funny enough, so do guys. And so if you realize that human behavior is that attractive people sell, and you're in the attention business with marketing, it might make sense to use images that people will stop scrolling for. And so here's an image that just so happened that we also colorized to line up with the colors of the company, right? So here's a woman wearing a black dress sitting on a yellow chair inside of a home. Fairly brand specific image. If you wanted to write success stories, you could. This is just a story of a buyer and a seller 2 buyers. It's a problem that they had, how we were a solution for them. But I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not great at storytelling, or at least knowing the correct framework and format for storytelling. Use ChatGPT to tell stories on behalf of your business and your clients. Okay, I'm up against the hour. Like I said, I'll stay and dive into as much or as little as you want, or I'll demo whatever you want to go through or not. What questions, conversation? What can we unpack that we've gone through so far?
Yeah, Eric, this is Cindy Taylor, and first of all, thank you very much for this. And I actually had asked a question what realtors would use. I asked it in our Rockstar group. My son, he has one company, they're developing AI as a second company, and he is implementing something for realtors. That's why I was asking. Yeah, and so I definitely want to share this with him. It's more information than I've got of what people should be looking for. And he has a very different stance on, first of all, they're hoping to get it legislated with, and yeah, and he has very specific things to make sure that if people are using it nefariously, that they can track them back. Just to answer somebody's question, probably most aren't doing that, but he's very conscious of that. Yeah, And I would like to show this to him. I can Zoom with him and show him the video. I assume that we're going to have it on the KW site. Is that correct?
I have no idea, but I think
Well,
that's
somebody's recording it, so I
Yeah.
assume
Yes.
it's on.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Yeah,
It'll
you're
be
welcome.
very helpful. They're about ready to get VC funding,
Oh,
so
cool.
yeah.
That's everywhere right now, it seems like. So
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Eric,
Perfect.
you have a question in the
Yeah.
chat from Greg. Do you see that, or would you like me to read that?
I do. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So I think in the shortest term, probably the easiest way is to, the easiest and worst way is to email me. But we will have it on the site soon. In fact, can I do this, Beth? Can I send it to you to send out? We'll
That's
get it loaded.
exactly what I was going to recommend. If you could put
Perfect.
the list or have Kristen put the list together for us, that would be great. Then we can pass that along with the video and email that out to everybody.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Perfect.
Thank you.
Ivana, you had something too.
Yeah, so when you are telling AI what to do,
Mhm.
once you get the results, are you able to go back and say, because sometimes you may not remember everything, are you able to go back and say, add this, add that?
Yeah, sure. So I think I understand what you're saying is, I'm gonna back out of that for just a second here. So if I get a response that I don't necessarily want, or it doesn't include something that I want, can I basically change the result?
Or add to it? So say
add
you're
to it?
asking for, you
Yeah.
know, a post for a new listing and you forgot to add some
Mhm.
features and you want to go back in.
Yeah, sure. So, oops, let's see. This is so ridiculous and silly, but that's okay. I was messing around with the team on Friday afternoon about Veronica had some book she was reading that she was like, oh, this is cool. Now you can like make my book characters come to life visually. And so I said, okay, well, what book are you reading? She told me the book. So I said, okay, write a summary about the book, because I wasn't going to go read the book actually, just to fulfill some silly request. So I asked it to like write a summary about it. Okay. Now let's say that I didn't like this summary. I could go in here and change it by just clicking this little edit button. And then I could either change this like to say, put it into a outline bullet pointed format. And I could do it this way so that it would basically then like change the order. It's basically going to start from the beginning. It's going to start at ground zero now and build down. That's one option that I could do. The other option is I could go to the second step after it's already given me the summary, and I could change the summary. I'll show you here in just a second, but I could change the summary and type in the same thing I just did, which is put it into a format, put it into an outline, bullet point it, and then build a table after it writes the summary. And it will do it it'll keep the summary, and then it'll build an outline as the second response. So I can change think of it like Legos. Basically, I'm building a conversation. I can move in or out some portion of the Lego blocks to create a different creature. And I don't know if I'm explaining it well, so
You are. That's my
demonstrate
question.
it. See what it did
The
here.
edit
Change the
function.
array. Okay, perfect. I could just change it to go based on the summary you wrote. Provide me with an outline. Go that route instead. Now it'll keep the summary in case I wanted to consult the summary, and it'll also build the outline for it.
Similarly too, like I used it for some emails we were sending out about an event, And I had it draft an email based on, one prompt that I entered. And then I had the thought, oh, I should have some reference to the Indy 500 because it was right before that was happening. So then I added to it and I said, can you adjust the email you just wrote to include some Indy 500 puns or references, and then it'll just update it to a new version with whatever you want to add.
Yeah,
One
I
thing
used
you
it.
could
Oh,
think of.
I was gonna say, I just used
No, go
it
for it.
this weekend, non-real estate. I'm like kind of real estate related, depending on how you use it. But we had a leak coming from an air vent in our ceiling in our new home, and I used ChatGPT to like act like a plumbing expert, act like an HVAC expert. It figured out the problem for us, but then it was like asking us to go for a specific pipe to find on the HVAC unit, and I was like, I have no idea where that is. And so I just followed up with the information it gave me with asking, where would I find this? And then it gave me that. And then it was like, you would do this. And I was like, great, how exactly do I do that? So you can continue to ask it questions and it will continue through that feed as well.
I think the thing to keep in mind with that is that it's no different than a conversation you would have with a human if you were on the phone with an HVAC tech. Right, that's precisely what you would do if you were actually in a verbal conversation with someone who wasn't physically standing in front of you. In fact, so there's two models here. Well, there's a lot of models, but for the sake of conversation, there's two different versions. There's like a decently smart version and a much smarter version. The GPT-4 is a lot more intelligent than GPT 3.5. GPT-4 is $20 a month. You're going to get more predictable, accurate, intelligent answers from 4 than from 3.5. It actually found plumbing leaks more effectively than plumbers on GPT-4 during the test cases for it. There's an actual format to go through to follow, but I won't bore you with that component of it. I do want to show one thing that I think is really fascinating that about understanding where things are going. So I want to show you this dialogue really fast. This is a lot of what I'm working on every day. Let me see if I can get it to play. Okay, this is a conversation with a prospect. So give it time to read it so you can see the nuance of it. So Jennifer, how's the house going? How's the house search? Thanks for checking in. I'm in the process of getting divorced. I need to sell my house ASAP and find a new one. And just so you know, I have a disability. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that you're going through a difficult time with your divorce and the added stress of needing to sell your house and quickly find a new one. It must be a lot to manage. What are you looking for in a new home? Any specific requirements due to disability? How many of you or the people on your team do you think could handle when a prospect responds to one of your messages and says, I'm in the process of getting divorced, I need to sell, I need to buy, and I have a disability. Not only are you going to qualify it, be empathetic, but you're also going to be fair housing compliant. How many people do you think could actually do that that are currently licensed or currently in your organization? I'm going to guess very few. I'm not sure that I would have actually had as good of a response to that series of communication. So when you ask the question about where are things going, that's what I wake up and try to go. That's what I'm waking up trying to execute on, is both all of the digital based communication that takes place for a real estate agent could and should disappear. And I say that because it's not the best use of your time. It's not actually the value that you give the consumer. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be replaceable. Because I was thinking through this lens that says, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, every single pending that I have will still close. Every pending will still close because there's another licensed real estate agent who can step in and fulfill the fiduciary duty of getting that person into their new home. And so if that's the case, then how do we all have access to the resources in order to do the things that only you can do? Because nobody's better at being you than you. And so thinking about the phone calls and the emails and the text messages that you're using today to communicate, they all can be improved through the improved quality control. The estimate right now is 80% of business communication can be automated. I don't know if that number is exactly right, but that sounds about accurate. 80%, which is awesome. I think that whether we like it or not, well, that's where we are, or at least that's where things are going, right? And so we want to, I think, be mindful of knowing that, because that's, I think those that early adopt get way ahead, or better yet, don't fall behind, right? So how do you maintain a better relationship with your database? Stephanie, you got a giant database of people, and you've worked really hard for however many years to do that. And not everyone communicates with everyone in your database. And that's not exactly what you would set out to build as a business owner. And so if there was a way to execute 100 quality control by ensuring that no matter what, the people that you've built credibility and trust with were communicated with, you would want that to happen. And you should. And so should the consumer. Right now, still 50% of all people who reach out to real estate agents go unresponded to. And so those that choose to implement the technology to respond and solve problems for consumers by leveraging what's available will continue to do more consolidation. That's what Gary's really been saying for the last 4 years when he talks about consolidation. It's not like that you are going out of business. It's that agents who don't work, or agents who don't want to be fiduciary and improve the way that they adapt and provide a product to the consumer, those are the ones that will be consolidated on, right? It's not that if you wake up every day and go attempt to do that you have to worry about that happening to you, because you wouldn't be here if that was you, right? You'd still be in bed or whatever. So anything else I can do to help?
Eric, that makes me think of his quote a few years ago, where you're losing ever so slowly, you still think you're winning. You're losing ever so slowly, you still think you're winning. So, and I is going to shift things drastically, and I think rather quickly, really. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting in that regard for sure, because the potential with it is unlimited. Mm-hmm. The challenge becomes is that you can spend way too much time and energy trying to understand all of it. That's not what I would recommend. Like there's another, I don't know, 15 plus slides that we could just start to actually understand more of the ways that AI will show up. But we'll have another conversation. We're going to do ongoing like workshops for people who want to do integration of like, how do I go integrate this little tiny compartment of my business? And then how do I automate it so that part's done, and then kind of sequentially build on top? Because if you go try to eat the entire elephant at one time, it's not happening. It's too massive of a space that evolves too fast. Yeah.
Eric, this has been great. I want to be part of whatever that workshop thing is you're talking about.
Okay, cool.
This has been fantastic. I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's good. Awesome. Glad it was helpful.
Sure. Thank you so much. If everybody could unmute that's still on and thank Eric for this. This was truly amazing. And we would love to have you back to further this conversation and definitely do some workshops with you. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Everybody we'll get the recording out and the documents once Eric gets that to us, and everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Eric, really so much. I am on my phone only, and I literally took probably 4 scrolling pages of notes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, cool. Jan,
thank you. Really.
Yeah, I just had a really quick question, if I may. Is there any feedback about whether people who are on the receiving end of this AI have any sense that it's not really you? I mean,
yeah, I think that's a good question. Today, the answer is no. What does it look like long term? I don't know. I think that it's a quasi controversial question And I think it's a lot more difficult and nuanced than people think that it is, only because, you know, we've had automated call centers forever. What's the difference?
Right.
And so that becomes a little bit of the challenge is we have automated texting already.
Right.
And we've just been limited to how good one person can write the text message. We're just no longer limited to, I think it's actually democratized intelligence, which is a good thing. So I hope it doesn't, I hope not. But
Well, I was just thinking, you know, we can get messages that we know are from non-Americans, and it's so obvious. And I just obviously wouldn't be that area, but have you had any feedback about, I know Jan wouldn't say these words or use these big words, you know, that can't be heard. That's the only thing. The only thing, but I wonder about any kind of negative pushback on recipients.
Yeah, the only thing I could say is that I think existing laws exist. There's a lot of debate about that, is do we actually need any additional laws, or do the ones that we currently have already cover nefarious activity regarding communication? I think that they do, but there are other people who disagree with that. I think the challenge with it is we've just never dealt with something that has more access to more intellect or knowledge than what we do. And that's the part that becomes concerning. But, you know, I use this analogy. Free speech existed only in your town 100 years ago. The internet democratized free speech to where you can say things that probably shouldn't say or may not be popular, and a million people may read it online.
Right. Good parallel.
Right. And the same thing exists today, is you're just really democratizing access to knowledge and resources that has never really existed until now. So
yeah, there's a lot of questions that are going to come up. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Eric. This was great.
Good.
Speaking of questions, Eric, you do have one more question here in the chat from Emily about the way that AI has been beneficial in your personal life, not just real estate.
Yeah, good question. Hang on one second. Let me look here at the list here. Oh, okay, cool. My wife's not on. I was going to say the best thing is I have AI send me a text message every morning to send my wife. That's the best option to go with. That is one thing you could do. But you can automate things intelligently on a regular basis. I think probably email is probably the best AI related time-saving activity. Otherwise, I now get like all of my newsletters summarized and sent into one email instead of 400.
Wow.
Instead of reading, you know, a bunch of different emails every day, I have all emails put into one file. I think we're in the process of trying to scrape images off of Twitter, build slides, and write news copy based on the articles as well for trainings. But that's next. That I think will save. Well, how much time will that save? It's like 16 hours a week, probably.
I would say that's at least an 8-hour savings, if not realistically longer. Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah. But so cool. All right. Well, let me know any way that I can help. I'll get things to Beth, and then we'll keep moving things forward. Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.